This video is brought to you from the salesman.org HubSpot studio. Do you want to reduce the number of sales objections that you get and increase the chances of closing the deal? Then you need to become what we call a trusted advisor to your prospects. And I'm going to show you exactly how to do that in this video, so stay tuned. Sam is a closer. He aggressively tries to win the business and he does not take no for an answer. And well, his buyers think that he's a pain in the ass to work with and they don't trust him as far as they can physically throw him, right? Walter, on the other hand, well, he listens to his buyers. He frames himself up as an expert. And well, his buyers actually like spending time with him. And if Sam and Walter earned the same amount of commissions each year, who do you think is going to be happier? Who do you think is going to have a nicer time working in sales? Well, it's the trusted advisor. It's the known expert. It is Walter, of course. Because when your buyers see you as a trusted advisor, they don't give you as many sales objections. They pick up the phone when you call and well, they make the buying experience much more pleasant for everybody involved. So I hear you cry as you're watching the video. Will, how do I become a trusted advisor? Well, let's move to the whiteboard of sales success and let's find out. So there are 5 steps to becoming known as a trusted advisor to your buyers, 3, 4, and 5. So first off, you've got to engage them. Then you got to listen. You got to have a point of view. You got to get the buyer to envision. And you've got to get the buyer to take action. You've got to really drive them hard to take action. So let's run through each one of these very quickly and let's build up a mental image of how we can develop trust with our potential customers. So first off, we need to engage the buyer. And a lot of the time, the prospect can actually start this step of the trust building process if they reach out to you because perhaps they've currently got an issue that they want to solve. And hopefully we're the one that can solve that issue. So if the buyer has an issue, then they reach out to you to solve it. Well, you've done this. You've completed this engage step of the process already. Otherwise, you've got to do a little bit of work here. You've got to reach out to the buyer in a way that separates yourself from all of the other sleazy salespeople out there so that you can start to position yourself as an expert. And make sure to click subscribe because we've got a video coming out next week that'll show how to cold email prospects with unique insights that sets you apart and sets you up as an expert in a really simple, straightforward way. To complete the second part of the trust building process, the listening element here, the buyer has to agree that you're hearing them out and that you understand their needs. It's the buyer right here. They need to agree. This isn't something that you get to control, decide, approve. It's the buyer that says, hey, Will has paid attention to me. He really understands my needs. Now, you can try and blag this. You can pretend to listen. You can pretend that you really care. But often the trust building process is just so much easier if you do actually listen and you do care about the buyer's pains. And once the buyer knows that you've understood them, it's time to move to the next step. And this is really, genuinely now, Sales Nation, this is really what separates sales pros from the hacks in the industry. You must be able to offer a point of view to the buyer. And there are 3 ways that you can go about doing this. You can just agree with the buyer's current assumptions. And if the buyer is well educated and they're correct, then there's no reason to offer them a unique or different point of view. You don't need to offer them something that is different from what they've already come to the conclusion of. That's one way you can go about it. You can give the buyer industry standard advice, because in most industries, there is a somewhat standard, I'll put that in inverted commas, a somewhat standard way of doing things. Now, you might see this industry standard day in, day out, but the buyer might not. The buyer might actually be pretty blind to this if they're not well educated on the subject. And so just highlighting this for the buyer can be valuable to a lot of them. Now, the third way that you can offer a point of view, this is where things change. This is where you're going to offer a customized point of view. And this is where you really get to separate yourself from the competition because this is you. It's unique. By its very nature, a customized point of view is going to be highest on this trust building scale. It's going to offer the most trust in the shortest period of time. Because to offer a unique point of view that's actually valuable, you need to be an expert. You need to know your product and service. And if the buyer wants to implement your customized point of view, then they've got to work with you. It wipes out the competition in one fell swoop. So doing this little bit of work up front, giving a customized point of view at this point of the sales cycle when you're still trying to build trust with the buyer, you're already locking out the competition. So the buyer wants to work with and has to work with you moving forward. Having now defined your point of view and how you can potentially help the buyer, most salespeople try and jump from point of view to action, they miss out this vitally important step in the trust building process, the envision element, because we don't want the buyer to just accept what we're saying, because they're probably not all that bought into it if that's the case, especially if they say that verbally to us that, yes, okay, this sounds fine. We need to get the buyer to envision how this looks, the whole process across the sales or buying cycle from right now, from where we are to 1 to 5 years in the future, when hopefully all of their problems have been solved. To get the buyer to envision our unique point of view and how it can be implemented, we need to be asking questions like, what are we really aiming for here? How will we know when we've arrived at the end solution? How can we measure some of this to know that we've got there? And this will get the buyer's brain ticking, it'll get them thinking in the future tense, and it makes our unique, our customized point of view more real for them, which then moves us on to the next and final step in the trust building process, where perhaps the buyer, they know what the issues are. They might be literally dreaming of the end results that you've shown them how to achieve at this point with your POV. But most of the time, they don't quite know how to get there. And if they don't take action, then all of this has been for absolute nothing. So the purpose of the action part of the trust building process is to ensure that our customers understand all of the steps that they've got to go through to solve their problems. We could be explaining that there's going to be politics within the account, that they've got to fend off competitors to work with you directly. They've got to find and secure budget, they've got to hire people, they've got to fire people. They've got to break their colleagues through status quo, otherwise known as the lack of urgency to make change, no matter seemingly how bad things can get. We need the buyer to take action, very literally to take action, to move forward, to do something. And they can only really do that when they've got a plan in place. And so it's our responsibility to help them build that plan, or to literally just build it for them, to project manage this. So then they have to trust us if they want these dreams that they've envisioned to come true. And once you've been through this final step here of getting the buyer to take action, generally, most of the time, you built enough trust that the deal is almost as good as yours. So there we have it, the 5-step process to becoming a trusted advisor to your buyers and making your sales career more effective and frankly, much more easier and more enjoyable as well. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to click that like button, and why not click one of the videos that are on the screen right now to make selling simple.